Oh, he got it.
Yes!
He hit instantly.
Woo! This bait is a monster.
Keep on getting them down.
That's going. Look at the hook set.
Right in the top.
Look at that. Good morning, everybody. It is I don't know, about 7 a.m. Temperature's low, but the humidity is probably 110 because Virginia, the East Coast, is now a tropical rainforest. But I want to talk to you today as a follow-up to my last video about the bait I was using, because really I just discovered it and I had never used that bait before, and that bait is a monster. Like, if you saw that video, I was crushing on that bait. So let's talk about that bait a little bit. So here's the rod, and we're going to talk about a couple baits. So I was throwing it on, this is a Shimano Crucial 7-foot medium heavy. I got 20-pound test line on it, co-poly, no braid, just straight co-poly. And I was throwing it up around those spatter dock and lily pads and that sort of stuff, and it was killing. But what that bait was, it was a swim jig, but it was not a typical swim jig. So, and I know GoPros don't focus, so as I show you these baits, I'll put a still up of every bait that's on the deck right now. But here, so when we were fishing, I fished the other day. Y'all haven't seen that yet. That actually won't be a video. So right here, if I can get it loose, this is my typical swim jig. So this is the swim jig that I make for myself to use, and this is the swim jig that y'all have seen in other videos and other things like that. So on this swim jig, this is a typical swim jig. You've got a weed guard, which I trim drastically, okay? I'm gonna trim all your weed guards, but I cut the weed guard very close to the hook, okay? It's got a regular jig head profile, flat bottom, comes over cover. It's got a regular jig skirt on it, you know, kind of wide, bulbous, lots of motion. Heavy hook, not as heavy as a flipping hook, but heavy hook, and I've got a rage on there, right? So that's a little bluegill pattern swim jig. Well, the swim jigs I was throwing the other day were very different than this one. I was throwing this one my last trip out, because I wanted to make more commotion. The water was dirty. I wanted to push water. But the ones I was throwing the other day really was the first time I'd ever thrown them, and I wanted to come through grass, okay? We're talking hydrilla, spatter dock, lily pads, reeds. I don't want to come through grass. I didn't want the weed guard to catch on any debris or anything like that. I could have thrown this and I probably would have caught fish, but I wanted something that was just, I wanted to try this other bait out. Now, initially, I discovered these baits because if you've watched my channel for any period of time, you know I take my kid out a lot. So Fishing Kid is with me almost every time. So it's a challenge to find tackle that a child can use to bass fish or what have you, okay? Because some of it requires very specific hook sets, casting technique, retrieves, stuff that he just hasn't mastered yet. And besides, if you're taking kids fishing and they get hung up all day, it ruins your day. So I bought these as something I was like, oh, he can use that. You know, it's Texas rig. He already knows how to throw a Texas rig. He knows how to throw a slider. And so I was thinking, man, that'll be great. That's a great transition to a bait that'll keep him out of the trees, and he has a chance of catching a big fish. This is the first one that I bought for Fishing Kid. This is a Keitech jig, okay? Made by Keitech, sold by Keitech. This jig's very unique. First of all, there's no weed guard on this. This has it's made to be Texas rigged, okay? So I'm gonna take this apart, and we'll talk about the bait I hung on the back of these in a second. This actually has like a sheetrock screw or wood screw right there. And if you look at that, that looks just like a screw, just like a wood screw that you would use to attach something, okay? So that screws in the nose of the bait. Then you've got a nice, you know, good hook to rig Texas into your swim bait. The one thing about the Keitech that makes this very unique is, and I don't know if this is going to show up, look at the way the skirt attaches. So the skirt attaches to that screw, but then the hook eye goes through the skirt, so it's like swings. okay? It's trapped, it's not fixed. So your skirt has a lot of motion, your bait can move. When the fish bites, the bait can collapse all the way down. So if your bait's at an angle like that, fish bites, look at the attachment, okay? It's kind of like a shaky head, but the attachment goes all the way down and gets out the way, okay? And then the weight just kind of hangs below it, okay? So it tracks through the water really well. And I'll show you a clip from the other day when Fishing Kid was using this. You need to get that reel clicked in, that bait moving sooner. Woo!
Oh. Ow, I hurt my wrist. Finally.
You just caught a fish on a swim jig. You see it? Good job, Fishing Kid. So in that clip, he was using this rod, okay? This is his Fenwick. This is a medium action, 7-foot medium action. And he was able to get a hook set on that fish. So the bait worked out. The other one which I stumbled across is actually made by Keitech Tungsten, okay? I bought 4, and I said, oh, well, that's similar to the bait that I bought for, you know, for Caleb, for Fishing Kid. And mind you, when I bought it, he hadn't caught a fish on it yet. But I bought these. These are very different too. So one thing you notice on this one versus the other one, this skirt. The skirt's not very bulbous. It doesn't flare out a lot, okay? So when this comes through the water, there's not a whole lot of secondary motion, okay? Again, a visual bait versus something that's trying to push water, move water, fish to feel it. I knew the fish could see the bait. It's got a really nice brim pattern on it, very subtle, okay? Little blues, little orange, little yellow. This is a hand-tied skirt. If you looked at the, and I'll link it below, at my video where I talked about whipping a jig, it's very similar to what I do when I whip my jigs. I'm using the type of knot that you would use when tying flies or wrapping guides on a rod. So this is a tungsten head with the little, got eyes, a little fish pattern, okay? It's flat on the bottom, and then they hand-tied skirt strands to the tungsten. Now, here's where the bait starts to get real different. That head is attached to a split ring, okay? It's a heavier split ring than what you'd see on a crankbait, but it's attached to a split ring. And I was a little worried about that because usually split rings, people talk about upgrade your split rings, that sort of thing. If you look, I was burying that hook on those fish with a medium heavy, 20-pound high abrasion line. I was hammering them, drag, locked down. That split ring is fine, okay? So that's a pretty good quality split ring. This bait is torn up. Fish were destroying it. But then you look at the hook. This is almost, this is very close to a heavy wire flipping hook, punching hook. This hook is a lot stouter than the hook on that Keitech. But if you got to think, if you're going to put a Keitech swim bait on that bait, Keitech swim baits are very, very, very soft. They're very soft baits. Apologize for the sweating. Like I said, the humidity is about 110 right now. This hook, I mean, what kind of hook is on here? It doesn't say what kind of hook is on it. That hook is the truth, guys. I mean, that hook went in. It went in. It did its job. The head has a lot of motion on it. Like, it's just spinning, right? See that? The head flips all the way down. I mean, you've got full motion on that split ring, on that hook. And, I mean, I was hammering them. I'm in love with this bait. I'll link it below. I did find them, but I'll link it below. If you have to pick between the two, my choice is going to be the Keitech Tungsten. I would buy that over the Keitech every day. Now I bought these are light, these are 1/4 ounce. But I knew I bought them specifically for Fishing Kid to throw or either for me to throw up shallow in grass. I didn't want a whole lot of weight, so when the bait hit the water, it just sank. All right. They come in other colors. These are shad patterns that I bought. And then the bait that I hung off the back were Gambler Big Easies and Easy Swimmers. So down in Florida, if you watch Scott Martin, which pretty much everybody who watches YouTube fishing watches Scott Martin, and Mikey Balls, this is what they throw in the grass. They rig them. I've got, you know, weighted hooks, unweighted hooks. They rig these and they throw these in the grass. This one bait probably caught that whole day. If you watch that video, I showed you guys almost every fish that bit that jig. Almost every fish that bit that jig. I changed baits once, And this is the bait I changed to. I could put this back on the hook. It's got a really nice deep channel, so when you rig this bait on here, and it's not hard to rig because you just rig it just like you would if you were doing a Texas rig worm. You just put the bait in, twist it. It's got a channel in the bottom and a channel in the top. And all I was doing was bringing the bait up and then just setting it loose in the channel. I never got this bait hung. It just sat there in the channel just like that. When the fish hit, wind down to them, and I stuck them. And I hooked every single fish. The hookup ratio on the Eco Pro Tungsten jig was absolutely awesome. So that's it. I just wanted to go over this. This bait did so well, I wanted to do a dedicated video for just this bait. That's why in the last video I didn't link it below, because I wanted to talk about just this bait. But I will be getting more of these. I'm gonna get a lot more of these, especially in that bluegill pattern. That little bit of yellow, little bit of color against that green pumpkin. Look how pretty that is with that gambler on there. And that's the Copperfield color. I don't know which one that is. This is an easy swimmer. You could easily put a big easy on that. That hook is big enough for a big easy. The weight's probably not heavy enough, but the hook is certainly big enough to put a big easy on it. That's the bait, the 4/0 hook with a big easy. Could be a little bigger, but there's bite there. You'll get the fish, right? If he compresses that, you're gonna get him. But like I said, I was using the easy swimmer, not the big easy. But I'm not in Florida, and in that river, a kicker fish would probably been 3.5 pounds. So I was okay with the easy swimmer. But comment below if you have questions. All these baits will be linked below. And if you think about getting one and you follow my link, I appreciate it, because my channel is still growing and every little bit helps. So please like and subscribe. If you know somebody who'd like this video or like my other content, share the video with them too. All right, see y'all in the next video.